A very happy Thursday and welcome to the Early Edge brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. Reed Phillips, first one in the chat. He says, good morning, Early Edge family. Let's tackle the day. Absolutely love to see that and love to see this recap screen. It's yet another winning day, another 3-1 day. I guess that's back-to-back 3-1 days, but 17-5 on recap screens so far this week. And we've got a particular person on this show that has been red hot this week. I mean, I guess the whole team's been red hot, but let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show because we got a lot to talk about, a lot of NFL, a lot of soccer. Oh, obviously, we have Thursday night football tonight, including the primetime show. We've got Larry, we've got Mike McClure. Buckets, I got to start with you because you saw that recap screen. You saw, I'm sure you probably saw yesterday's recap screen and the one before that. It looks really good, but it doesn't look as good as your record over the last couple of days. Can you tell everybody what you've accomplished over the last two?
See, I don't think this is something that I've accomplished. I think this is something that we've accomplished as a team together. We are 7-0 on our last Champions League picks on the SportsLine site, and we are 5-0 this week on Champions League picks here on the Early Edge this week as well.
I mean, that's amazing, incredible. Larry, speaking of amazing and incredible, we have a bit of an announcement that we're just going to kind of sneak in here on a Thursday morning and probably talk again about it tomorrow. And I'm sure everybody in the chat has no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna hand it over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Sia. Great to be here with this amazing crew. And yeah, we're launching a SportsLine Discord on Monday. And that's a place where you'll be able to chop it up with a guy like Buckets, a guy like Mike McClure or Sia or Alex or Tom Casale. Bounce any questions you have. We're already in there getting ready. RJ White is in there. So it's going to be great. It's going to be open, obviously, to SportsLine subscribers only. And that's another perk of being a SportsLine member. You're going to be able to sweat games with us, bounce things off us, share your picks. And we just hope to kind of grow the community that really started with Early Edge.
Absolutely. And we'll have, I mean, it's going to be super easy to join, but Larry, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Monday that they'll be able to actually like click a button and join the Discord?
Yeah, I forgot to say, but Monday on the SportsLine homepage, there'll be a big announcement where you just click there. It will take you there and you will be good to go.
All right. So tune in for more details there. It'll be really easy. It'll be a really fun, positive betting environment. So really interested to see where that takes us. Mike McClure, you've got football on your mind today. We've got FFT DFS at 11 today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sia. Love Thursdays. A very, very busy day for us here, but I love the busyness because it means we're in the middle of the NFL season and the NBA. College basketball is back. There's just so much going on. It's a great time of year.
Absolutely. I mean, Larry, you mentioned Tom Casale's name when it came to the Discord, the new SportsLine Discord that we're debuting in a couple of days. But yeah, I mean, college basketball, it almost gets for like the beginning of college basketball season almost gets forgotten at this point of the NFL season. But like it's started up at this point. We've got guys like Zach and Tom and so many others at SportsLine dishing out picks. So you're definitely going to want to be a member of SportsLine. But let's start with Buckets. Buckets 7-0 on UCL picks this week, 5-0 on Early Edge picks this week. Can you keep this streak going? You got a couple of plays today.
I guess we'll find out, Sia. And if we're going to keep the streak going, though, we're going to do it with Europa League football. And I've got a matchup here this afternoon between Dinamo Kiev and Ferencvaros that we all need to be betting on. Because I'm looking at the classic here. Both teams to score. And I know what we're all thinking. Buckets. Both teams to score. These teams have both hit it in 4 of their last 5 matches, and every match in between Europa matches straight so far this season. There's no way this is playable. I agree with you, but somehow it is. Both teams to score is -110 on MGM, and I was preparing to give this out at -145 and give the juice is worth the squeeze. It's blah, blah, all that. It's -110, and it shouldn't be. I cannot ignore a line like this when something is hitting at an 80% clip over the last 5 meetings on both sides here. Take both teams to score and don't overthink this first one. For the second one, a little bit of thinking. Odsed Alkmaar taking on Fenerbahce, and we're taking Fenerbahce draw no bet at -125. These are 2 really good clubs domestically, but AZ Alkmaar has shown that they don't care about Europa League. Meanwhile, Fenerbahce, under Jose Mourinho, really cares about Europa League. Fenerbahce have not lost yet in this competition, taking points off of Manchester United, Twente, and beating Union Saint-Gilloise. I think Fenerbahce win this one outright, probably 2-1 or 3-1, but the fact that we can get that safety net for the potential push, if we get the draw at -125, Sia, a tremendous line.
All right, we got a couple of plays trying to move to 9-0 on the week, 7-0 on the early edge. Absolutely love to hear all of that. And I'm loving some of the picks in the chat. I think I might have missed it. Who was it? I think it was Brad Morris. Here it is. Charlie Kohler over 13.5 receiving yards. No likely tonight. And he had a good game last time versus Cincinnati. I think plays like that are really interesting. And, it's funny because I was just thinking of first touchdown scores. And I think this is one of those games, guys, where I almost want to shoot for the moon, like a Drew Sample or a Tanner Hudson, because we've got some guys that are like super short, but there's so many different targets that both of these quarterbacks can throw to in the end zone. So I think Charlie Kohler, at least from a prop standpoint, is an interesting look. But speaking of first touchdowns, we've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash, no opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager is normal. If your player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. We got a lot of football to cover. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
Saturdays at 3:30, it's big time. Will the Hoosiers keep their undefeated season and playoff hopes alive when they host defending champs Michigan? Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
All right, we're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. A lot of NFL picks. The rest of the show, obviously, 7:15 primetime tonight. You'll get more NFL picks. As far as the other sports, a lot of times, like yesterday and the day before, the portfolio was quite diversified, but just keep in mind, you go to sportsline.com/join, you type in the promo code winners, you get all of the picks for every single day. Again, sportsline.com/join, promo code winners. If you type that in, you get 60% off the annual plan. All right, let's go back to a very intriguing Thursday night football game tonight. I think both teams kind of need this win for different reasons, but obviously more of a desperate situation for Cincinnati. Mike, what are we targeting in Ravens-Bengals?
Yeah, this game is fascinating. It really is close to a must-win on both sides. It's more of a nice-to-have-it for sure on Baltimore, but I say must-win for them too, because you want to essentially knock this Bengals team out of playoff contention, and that's what would happen tonight if the Bengals lose this game, in my opinion. I'm looking at the total, though, on the Ravens side. I isolated their team total here under 30.5. It's just a big number in an NFL game on a short week in division here. I think just so many things have to go right to score 31 points in an NFL game here when you're talking about possessions. I just see many paths to a Ravens victory here at 24, 27, 28, or 30. When I look at this team for Cincinnati, they're improving defensively. They're getting a little more healthy, and it's a do or die spot. And I do think that when you look at this Ravens defense that is a pass funnel, it's going to allow this Bengals team to at least move the football down the field. I personally think that this is going to be a game where they possess the football enough. We kind of see this sometimes when Kansas City plays. We used to look at Kansas City Chiefs and think we would see lots of massive overs in these kind of spots. To me, I just think that this is a big number. You've got to have 4 touchdowns and a field goal, or you need 3 touchdowns and 4 field goals to beat you here. So for me, I'm going to be playing on this particular spot at under 30.5 and not taking a stance on the side of the game here. Again, I think there are many paths to a Ravens win and a Ravens cover while still staying under 30.5.
Yeah, well, Mike, I'm kind of hoping the game score here is, because I'm doing like quick math, very easy math, is like 30-23, where you win your bet and I win my bet, because I've got and I don't love doing this. You all know, if you've looked at my record so far on SportsLine this year, I'm doing pretty well, obviously, but it's the props that I'm really hitting hard. I had a real hard time with the props for this particular game. Some of the props that, like Larry, the one you gave out yesterday, which I believe was it Burrow over 1.5 touchdown passes. I think it might have been on yesterday's early edge. So I absolutely love that one. I think that's a great look, especially with the Bengals probably not being able to run super efficiently on this Ravens front. But I like the Ravens here. I'm going to just take it against the spread. I'm going to take the favorite. I understand this is a division game. I just think this is 2 different classes of teams here, especially when you factor in the fact that the Ravens are relatively healthy. Obviously, you need the Ravens to be operating at like kind of optimal mode. And when they do, they can absolutely blow out anybody. But I honestly think even if you get 80-90% of what the Ravens have to offer, and they keep adding toys, right? Deontay Johnson, Keaton Mitchell might play today. And again, everybody healthy. When you look at that and then you look at the Bengals, some issues on the offensive line. T. Higgins probably not playing. I just don't think they have enough firepower to keep up over 4 quarters with the Ravens. So I'm expecting maybe like a 30-23 game, a 27-17 game. That's what, or maybe even higher scoring, I suppose. But the bottom line is I think the Ravens right now are just too good. Again, I know it's a division game. I think the Ravens are too good. I don't think the Bengals are a very good team. They've beaten up on some bottom feeders to get to 4 wins. You play a team like the Ravens, and it's a big-time wake-up call. Give me the Ravens -6. All right. Well, if I'm right, Larry, and honestly, again, I can be right and Mike can be right, but if I'm right that the Ravens are playing from a lead, it sounds to me like Joe Burrow is probably going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. Or maybe he already was, whether it's a neutral game script, trailing game script, or positive one. What's the play on Joe Burrow?
Well, Kirk Schroyer in the chat just gave away the pick because he said it best when he said you can't run on Baltimore, but you definitely can pass. And that's what I'm expecting tonight from Joe Burrow, over 35.5 pass attempts. You can find some 36s at even money, 36.5. I prefer playing 35.5 just in case it does land on 36. But the last 2 weeks, 39 and 40. The game against Baltimore where he threw 5 touchdowns, got up to 39. They throw it at the 6th highest rate per game right now. But in terms of expectation, they are the number 1 team in terms of pass rate over expectation. In other words, when it might be a running play or it should be a running play, they are still throwing the ball, excuse me, because they know that their best player is Joe Burrow. Their best weapon is Jamar Chase. So they are going to throw. And the matchup sets up beautifully. I hope the Ravens are up, 7, 10, 14 points. And they just scrap the running game completely, without aside from an occasional draw to Chase Brown. So I love Joe Burrow in this game, over 35.5 passes.
All right. And I do want to point out Mark Buckholz's comment here. He says, not just agreeing with your pick, Sia, but the Ravens also laid an egg to the Raiders and the Browns. I mean, the truth is, any of these NFL teams, I think my personal opinion here is that the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. Obviously, with the Commanders, a close second. I'm kind of kidding about the Commanders part, but the bottom line is whether it's the Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs, which I continue to be wrong about, maybe they're the best team, they're the undefeated one. But the bottom line is like anybody can lay an egg. But I do think, and I'll credit Cincinnati with this too, Mike, I'm going to go to you on this. Like, this is a division game, which lends itself to, the theory that the spread should be closer. The Bengals are going to cover, but I don't think there's going to be any letting up from either of these teams. In other words, I don't think you're going to see a game where the Baltimore just doesn't look ready for this game like they might be against like a Browns team or a Raiders team. I think both of these teams are probably going to be playing their best ball. The question for me is, well, what is Cincinnati's best ball versus Baltimore's best ball? But anyway, any commentary to that? Because it's a Thursday night game. Those tend to be a little finicky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short week division game, desperation spot. And we're talking about 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL here. And that's what is really important here. Whether let's talk about the AFC in general, right? It's those 4 teams there that just really, or 3 teams. I would say 4 teams. It's the Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. You've got 4 incredible quarterbacks. In fact, if you go look at the top EPA per play, Daniel's number 1 right now, Lamar number 2 here, but then it's Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes has now worked his way back up into the top 10 after a slow start. It's the top quarterback. So when you have quarterbacks of this skill level, the differences between these 2 teams are very, very small at times, just because the margin for error is so thin, right? When you look at this particular spot for a guy like Joe Burrow, like, yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all if they go in and find a way to hang and win this game. On paper, they're definitely not the better team. The Ravens are the best team and the better team on paper, but we're talking about one play that this could come down to here. Yeah. The only thing I would point out on the Joe Burrow side, big time revenge game for him. If you remember when he got injured on this field, the Ravens fans were not too kind to him, and he definitely took notes here with some profanity with Joe Burrow's name as he was laying on the field injured. So that this is a big individual revenge spot for Joe Burrow.
Very interesting. Leigh, I want to ask you something. Jeff Stenberg and then Buckets, I'm going to go to you to see if there's any questions from a soccer standpoint that you want to address to the crew here. But Larry, the Deontay Johnson thing, I mean, I'm very intrigued by Deontay Johnson even being acquired by Baltimore. And I'm also very intrigued by Keaton Mitchell potentially being active for this game. We know the Bengals, they traded for Khalil Herbert. Let's see if he has any role whatsoever in this game. But the prop, Jeff Stenberg pointed out the prop was pointing out a prop on Deontay Johnson. I mean, his receiving yards prop is like 16 and a half, 17 yards. And obviously it's incredibly speculative to like make a play on Deontay Johnson. But now this is his second game. I believe he got around 30% of the snaps, I think, if memory serves, in the first game out there. I mean, Deontay Johnson's a great receiver. Wouldn't you think he'd be on the field for, Mike, I'm going to go to you on this too. Wouldn't you think he'd be on the field for like 50 to 60% of the snaps and gobble up, because he's the new toy, gobble up like 2 to 3 catches for like 29, 30 yards?
I would think so, especially with Isaiah Likely out. That's another target. Those 3 or 4 targets, whatever they are freed up for him. And I think they like having him running those short routes to set up Zay to go deep. I'm staying away.
Yeah, Mike, any thoughts there? I understand how speculative it is, but any lean either way?
Yeah, I would say my lean is just don't play it to start the game. It's better suited as an end game play because Deontay Johnson, for me, the involvement is going to be really game script dependent, right? So the game script that they're going to get Deontay involved in is frankly the one where the Bengals are leading, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where Isaiah Likely was so dangerous, is in those late game situations or end of half situation, I suppose. If they don't find themselves in that spot, like if the Ravens, to me, if they're up by a touchdown, even in this game, they're going to run the football a ton tonight. They're just going to run the football repeatedly down the throat in this division game, which is kind of why I like their team total under a little bit, because I think we have long sustained drives. I do not see big touchdown plays here. So I would only play Deontay if this game is tied at halftime or they're down at halftime. That's when I would look to have a live position on Deontay's overs at that point.
All right.
Because then you're probably getting the number. If he has 0 catches to that point, you're probably getting that number down to 8 to 9 yards, which you can legit get there in one play.
And I'll note, everybody watching, we will touch on this game from a showdown perspective just for a couple minutes after we cover the main slate on Fantasy Football Today, DFS at 11 o'clock today. It's me, Mike McClure, and Meg Schaub. All right, Buckets, we got to close with you. Any soccer stuff? And I got to ask, because there's like 4 comments in a row from Reed Phillips, Kirk Schroyer, David Talk, Audacy Micah, asking about an interception. And specifically, what does Freya say about an interception tonight, Buckets? Oh, tough break, Buckets.
Freya stepped on the mute button.
How could you do that, Freya? How could you? I think that's her telling me that she doesn't think there's going to be an interception. She's saying, Bucket, shut up. Don't give out an interception because there's not going to be one. Something to consider. I will say, though, in the soccer world, the football world, whatever you want to call it, we have a ton of games today in Europa and Europa Conference. Be careful because it become overwhelming kind of betting all of these. But I will say, if you're looking for games specifically to bet to goals, bet on the Galatasaray versus Tottenham game, the Bodo Glimt versus Karabag game, and the Olympiacos versus Rangers game. See ya.
All right. Absolutely love to hear all of that. One final comment, and I'll go to you. Yeah, I'll go to you in a second, Larry. Oh, sure. David Talk. He says, buy a SportsLine membership, and it's so inexpensive, and you get Proppy, Sia, and Mike, and many more plays. Thank you for that sell there, David. Larry, go ahead before we get to the recap screen.
I just think Bucket's not giving out an interception pick shows a lot of discretion, and maybe there's more to this than flipping the coin or rolling the dice. Maybe he's actually looking at something. He's got some kind of a model, because that was impressive, Buckets. I thought you always just throw one out.
I usually do.
Mike, go ahead.
I say the more likely scenario is Freya ate the dice or the coin again, and that's why we're not flipping one.
Yes. We are going to the vet tomorrow morning, unrelated, but
Mike, you blew his cover. So there we have it. And maybe Buckets, who is 7-0 and 5-0 on the early edge, maybe he has the almanac, Back to the Future style. You just never know. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen. Buckets, I might need your help. In fact, we're going to start with Buckets, your picks. You're going to need to read these off for me. What are your picks today?
Oh, good. See ya. We have Dynamo Kiev taking on Ferencvaros, and Fenerbahce draw no bet for my 2.
All right, the rest of these picks are Thursday Night Football related. I've got the Ravens -6 at -108. Larry's got Joe Burrow over 35.5 pass attempts at -125, and Joe Burrow over 1.5 pass touchdowns at -146. Mike McClure, Ravens team total under 30.5 at -120, and he dropped some live betting advice for everyone as well. What a great show. Thank you in the chat for being so active. Really love all the participation every single day. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thanks for subscribing to this YouTube channel. I guess we'll see you tonight at 7:15 on the Primetime Show and right here every single Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning for the Early Edge. Let's all have a great day. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the ones and twos, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, a.k.a. the Maestro, and of course, Buckets, trying to stay undefeated. Freya too. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge. Have a great day, everybody. We rest our case.